Ms. Carter will be videotaping this hearing. Thank you very much. So, are there any seats outside of this room? And if so, rather than standing, you all, if you would like, you can go outside the room and have a seat. There's a big screen monitor out there that you can watch what's going on. It's left up to you. Just thought I'd mention it.
Well, they all listen to that, Robert.
For the record, there are currently 2 committee members present. The following subject matter will be heard today: Chicago's affordable housing issue, as well as discuss lifting the ban of rent control. I have opening remarks before I introduce our first guest. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. This morning, we're here to discuss the ways that we can create, promote, and develop affordable housing opportunities throughout the state. This is our 3rd stop on our statewide tour, and I'm looking forward to the discussions we're going to have here today on how we can address the issues of lack of affordable housing and rising rent prices. The other 2, there are serious housing challenges that are not unique to just Chicago or Cook County. College towns, suburban communities, and rural areas are all suffering from skyrocketing housing costs. So far during our tour, we have learned that we need to address the concerns of underserved markets like manufactured housing in Urbana, and that we need to come up with ways to preserve affordable housing options in order options in border communities like Rockford. It's not hyperbole to say that we face a crisis. We know that having a safe, decent, and affordable home is fundamental to providing better opportunities for children and their families. We also know that affordable housing and stable housing markets boost economic mobility, reduces poverty and homelessness, improves health outcomes, and strengthens local businesses. The economic and social well-being of all Illinoisans depending on affordable housing, and that's why we are here together today. And also that's why it's important to bring everyone to the table so that we can come up with solutions to the crisis. I know we're going to hear a lot about rent control today, but I wanted to be clear that this is only one of the options we're pursuing. My goal this morning and with this tour is to gather as much information as we possibly can. Let me repeat that. My goal today is to gather as much information as we possibly can so that we will have all kinds of tools we'll need to move forward and craft a legislative solution that creates strong communities and expands access to safe, decent, and affordable housing in Chicago and the rest of the state together. So I am very much forward to looking to hear from everybody here today. I'd like to hear your plans and how we can achieve our goals together. Thank you very much. Please silence your cell phones and your pages, please. At this time, our first order of business today is testimony from Cook County Commissioner Bridget Gaynor, and followed by Bridget Gaynor will be, and she will discuss land banking in Cook County, and then we'll go into our first panel, which is Richard Manacchio. How do you pronounce your name? Manacchio. Manacchio. I've been on Richard for a very long time. Still haven't learned how to pronounce your name. He's the Executive Director of the Cook County Housing Authority, and also Audra Hamerick. She's the Executive Director of the Illinois Housing Development Authority. So Bridget, Commissioner Gainer, will you please proceed?
Thank you, Senator Hunter. Thank you to everyone who's here. I appreciate the opportunity to come. As you said, my name is Bridget Gainer. I'm a commissioner on the Cook County Board, but also the founder and chair of the Cook County Land Bank. And having read the bill, I appreciate your comments about gathering lots of information on how to address affordable housing, because there's never going to be one solution. The one I'm going to talk about here today is about land banking, because I do feel there are changes to state law that could happen right now that could facilitate and increase the supply of affordable housing, and so I'll talk about those today. So, look, the land bank in its simplest form is an entity that kind of gets in between some of the obstacles we put up and barriers we put up in our own way around getting access to vacant housing and putting it back on the market. The land bank was a direct result of activism after the financial crisis, and I recognize a lot of faces in this room of people who were out at community meetings and others who demanded that, whether it was the banks or Fannie Mae or the court system, work for people, and they didn't have to sit in their communities and watch housing be vacant month after month after month because no one could figure out how to get it out of court. And so we are 5 years into the land bank now. We've acquired thousands of residential properties, some commercial and industrial, but residential is our main focus. By the end of this year, we will have completed the rehab on our 500th home. 80% of that is for home ownership, and 75% of those homes have been developed by small Black and Latino developers. And one of the reasons we stuck with residential and we work in some of the communities hit hardest by the foreclosure crisis is because you want to destroy these myths that you hear all the time, that there really isn't a market in lower income communities for housing. There's a very robust market. It's just that often the world gets in the way of how much supply is out there. So the land bank is a pipeline for more affordable housing, and I think land banking in other parts of the state could increase the supply. One of the problems that we have in Cook County is that, and so I'm going to get into weeds a little bit on the tax sale because this is absolutely in the purview of state law. There are probably 20,000 parcels that are sitting in what's called the scavenger sale. So we all know about the tax sale. If you're late paying your taxes, these guys come in, they charge you a bunch of interest. They have no interest in the house. It's just about, an arbitrage scheme to charge people money, and eventually they only target the houses where people are going to figure out a way to pay. They leave most of the tax delinquent property untouched. So put that over here, that's the annual sale. If no one pays the taxes for several years, it gets dumped into what's called a scavenger sale. And this is in Cook County, and it's not as relevant in the rest of the state. But when the land bank was created, we started looking at that pool of property, and there were thousands and thousands of properties, over 20,000, most of which had been in there for 5 or 10 years, sitting there vacant with $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 in fines, because every year that fine keeps racking up. But that's just because you put a number doesn't mean you're ever going to collect that money. And that means that no one's going to go in there to develop. And in a lower income community where the housing or the property is worth a little bit less, you can't afford to pay the back taxes and then come in and redevelop. So we tolerate a system that leaves some communities with vacant housing sitting there for years where it never would be tolerated somewhere else. So the land bank came in, we bid on 10,000 properties the first year and 7,000 this past year. The sale's only every other year. And we are going through the process to clear the taxes and title. And that property gets pushed right back out into the system to be developed by these small developers so a family moves into that house. But it takes 2 years to redeem that property. You have to go to court multiple times. We have to incur the cost of sending notice after notice after notice, often to people who have long gone. Some of this stuff's been vacant for over a decade. So we have this nonsense setup where we allow housing to sit vacant because we think that there's some $5,000 bill. We're never going to get that, and the rest of the community pays the price for that. It drags down their property values, it increases the law enforcement and other costs, and it's unconscionable, but it is a completely man-made problem. This isn't some big thing that has to be solved somewhere else. This is a part of state law, and I know that working with Audra and Rich, they're looking to address that. We're all sitting on a panel, but the land bank's proven now this housing is valuable. It's in communities where people want to live. They want to buy housing, they want to redevelop housing. And it's just because we are getting in our own way, and we need to eliminate those barriers so people, actual regular people, can get in, redevelop, and live in that housing. So as it sits right now, there's 20,000 pieces of property sitting in that scavenger sale. We're trying to make our way through as many as we possibly can. The irony is, if we run out of time, it goes back into the pool. This whole tax sale process was set up to benefit tax buyers and a small number of people who make a lot of money off of it, and everybody else pays the price. So, we're working now to write legislation so we can eliminate that process. If something's been vacant for 24 months and you have an entity like a land bank or some public-private entity that works with government, they shouldn't have to wait 2 years to get a property back. I don't want to live next to a vacant house for 2 years, and neither does anybody else. So if we increase that supply, if all of a sudden that 20,000 parcels could open up, you lower the cost of housing when you increase the supply. It's a basic law of supply and demand. You put more supply out there, you're going to have more affordable housing. And it occurs in exactly the communities where people are looking to live. Second issue is the fact that Fannie Mae still owns the largest amount of vacant property in Cook County. You could combine the top 10 banks, and they don't even come close to the vacant property that Fannie Mae owns. And so, in the same type of activism that was after the financial crisis that pushed the banks to actually unwind some of the housing, Fannie Mae is not in the housing maintenance business, it's in the housing finance business. And there's going to be leadership changes there, there's leadership changes at FHFA. I think this is an opportunity. The land bank is looking to purchase a lot of it, but there needs to be pressure to say, you need to let that housing back out into the market, you can't hang on to it. So, there are obstacles, but there are solvable problems. And we can't tolerate in some communities what we don't tolerate for ourselves. So I appreciate the partnership you have here. I mean, Rich and I also have worked together for a long time, and Cook County Housing Authority presents an incredible opportunity. If we were to be able to get access to that housing, people returning from coming out of incarceration who have a hard time renting housing, just increasing that supply altogether. So I appreciate that you're gathering support, you and Senator Tracy and others on the committee. And I would just encourage you to look at the things that we can change through a stroke of the pen. And the market is ready, and the developers are ready, and the people are ready in these communities to buy, redevelop, and move into this housing.
Very good, thank you very much.
I apologize, I just put my up on the plan.
Yeah, you leave, ahead.
I can, of course.
Yeah. So, Commissioner, are you all, you said we are working on legislation. Are you speaking of IDA and who are you speaking?
So there's a task force now that's come together to say, okay, if you were going to look at
Under the Cook County Land Bank?
no, not under the Cook, under IDA.
Okay, okay.
So if you were to look at aspects of legislation, what would you change? And this is, our contribution to that.
So does that mean that the task force is talking to Fannie Mae or working with them on something, or?
No, not yet. We've had 3 meetings so far. We are thinking a lot about the municipal code and the tax code in Illinois. Once we clean up the language, we have a great process. It's just way too slow. And it doesn't give the courts the confidence they need in the definitions to make this go faster. So once we shape up those definitions, I think that we'll be able to present something soon to you. And we'll be talking to all the advocacy groups, thinking about what's the best way to proceed with the legislation. But staying in step 2.
Okay. So who makes up the task force? Are there any legislators on there, state legislators?
Yes, Senator Saddleman's on it. We have Mayor of Rockford, Mayor of Aurora, Mayor of Danville. We just had a meeting yesterday. Illinois Municipal League's there. We invited realtors. We have nonprofits. We have land banks. Lots of different stakeholders.
Okay.
Yeah, so Senator Silverstein, we have firefighters and police officers, because oftentimes they're involved in these blighted vacant properties.
Right. Okay, good, thank you. So, Commissioner, where are the majority of the buildings in the land banking programs to be rehabbed or demolished? Where are they situated within Cook County?
It's mostly the south and west sides of Chicago and suburban communities. So we have Fort Heights, Riverdale, Chicago Heights, so there's a lot of some in South Suburban, Cook County, some in Southwestern, you know, as we don't really address housing that is in a robust market that's taking care of itself, so a lot of the places that we go have high vacancy, hit by the foreclosure crisis, lower income generally, because often the market's stuck, but what we have found is that once you clear the obstacles, the biggest impediment that I found wasn't that there wasn't a local developer or people didn't want to move there. It was that you had to go to court for a year and no one knew what you were going to get out of it. So you had to hire a lawyer, go through a process that you didn't understand, and to an average person who is a developer and might know it, you say, well, I can't spend a year tying up my money. I have to do other things. And so, again, these are man-made problems. You know, we create these issues. And so once the land bank, a lot of what we do is just get that stuff out of the way. A lot of people can redevelop a house, but a lot of people can't figure out how to go to court, hire a lawyer, spend a year spending money without making money, and then not know if they're going to end up at the end with a $5,000 water bill or another lien.
So how are you all dealing with the legal piece of it?
So we hire lawyers, and you know the land bank doesn't get any tax money. We are self-supporting. So every time we sell a house, we put a little bit on top, and then for that, we pay for the lawyers that go into the next house. So we've got a group of people that are experts at this, and they, you know, churn through the legal process.
So is there a way to cut the red tape? Is that someone else's cell phone? Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask you all to please silence your cell phone? Now, I can have the security to come up here if I need to. Okay. I would rather not do that, so can y'all please? So, is there any kind of way to cut some steps in court?
Absolutely. But look, originally, the idea that it would take 2 years to claim a house with back taxes made sense. If someone's living there, you want to give them a chance to put the money together to, you know, so they have time. But if a house has been vacant for a long time, it should be a completely different set of rules. And secondly, if you can sell the house to a municipality or like a land bank, someone who sits in between, it's not a profit-making entity, then you've got some protections that they're not, you know, just in there. But this stuff has been sitting in the scavenger sale sometimes for 15 or 20 years. There is nobody. So we have to send these letters out to nowhere, and that's what happens. I mean, sometimes you get people to redeem because they've been gaming the system and they've been using the property and they haven't been paying the taxes. But if they're using the property, they should be paying the taxes. So one of two things should happen. If it's been vacant, it should be a 6-month process to get rid of it, or something like that. I mean, we're happy to, you know, we don't just think it should be handed to us, but it needs to be something that doesn't take so much time.
Yeah, I recall, I knew back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, senior citizens who could not afford to pay the taxes, you know. And so I'm thinking that if we were to cut the red tape and reduce the amount of time that they have to redeem, I don't think that's a fair.
That's not at all what we're proposing, not even a little bit. This is for stuff that's vacant and blighted. So if there's a person that's living in the property,
Right.
I have no interest in reducing the time. What I'm interested in is a house that's sitting on a block, vacant and blighted, and dragging down the rest of the neighborhood. That's what we want to get to.
That's exactly the definitions that we're hitting in this task force. We're trying to define abandonment. So for example, if a house doesn't have water for 2 years, that's a pretty good sign no one's living there, and, among other things.
Right. Thank you.
No, I find that interesting because as an attorney, I had people that because of a high real estate property tax and maybe a loss of an income, they were not able to. And so I was trying to, in my mind, think how you would craft that. And the definitions will be critical, but I've also run into people that could not pay their water bill and likewise did not have water for a period of time. So I'll be very interested in how the legislation is framed because to address one size always does not fit all, and in legislation sometimes we get into that, so I'll be very interested.
We do extensive visual checks. We do 3 times we go by a property to ensure that it's vacant.
Yeah. Right, I mean, just for legislation purposes, it will be difficult to define all that, but it's certainly an attempt because we see now your other side. Thank you.
Commissioner, one more question. Can you explain the tax certificate program? You have a tax certificate program
Mhm.
under land banking. What is it and what does it do and how does it work?
So when you go, so again, there's two types of tax sales. The annual sale, that's like you're living in your house, you're late with your taxes. Somebody goes to auction and buys them and then charges you 12 to 18% interest until you pay back the principal. Now, I'm not gonna talk about that because I think it's insane that we run that, so let's put that over there. If again, you haven't paid it for multiple years in a row, it gets dumped into what's called the scavenger sale. And every other year, there's a sale of the scavenger sale where this stuff gets put up to auction. When you go to the auction and they say, okay, 7950 South Stony, $45,000 in back taxes, and what you do is you bid on it, but you don't get the property, you get the tax certificate. So it's almost like you get an option. So you get an option that says, you're gonna go through this process that we have determined, multiple mailings out to the people to ask them to redeem. If you satisfy all the steps legally, you take that tax certificate and you trade it in for like a deed after you go to court. Yeah, so it's like an option. It's like right of first refusal that you get 79 Stony first unless the person comes back to redeem. So the certificate gives you rights to be the first person that gets access to that property other than the property owner.
Any more questions?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Oh, you bet.
I really appreciate it. Of course, good to see you. Thank you. Next we'll have, Director Henry.
Good morning, we're thrilled.
Commissioner Gainer brought her a fan club.
Yeah, good morning. We are thrilled to talk about affordable housing. At the Illinois Housing Development Authority, that is all we do. Our mission is to create and preserve affordable housing throughout the state. We are an interesting agency. We're quasi-governmental. We are self-supporting, and we consider ourselves a mission-driven lender, although we look a lot like a bank. When she was talking about affordable housing finance, that's really what we do. We have three main programs. One is a multifamily program, providing housing and lending options for renters. We have a single-family program where we are creating home buyers in Illinois and preserving that talent. And then we have a community development program. So I'm going to hit each one of these really quick for you. In the big picture, IDA has around, today, 120,000 units that we have financed that are still active. We monitor those. We have a staff of 370 of those folks are simply dedicated to make sure that people are being treated fairly, they are eligible to be in affordable housing, and that the properties are in good repair. We also have staff that looks like banking staff where they are underwriting loans to developers that come in and seek financing. We call it lasagna financing because there's lots of layers of this. Sometimes it's tax credit equity, sometimes it's reverse mortgage lending, sometimes it's home program, national housing trust funds, sometimes it's state tax credits. All that kind of lasagna ends up being the capital cost to build and preserve affordable housing on the multifamily side. Last year, we were able to create about 4,000 new units of affordable housing, and we are very proud of that. They are all over the state. Our biggest program is the low-income housing tax credit program. We are very careful that we have set aside so all areas of the state have a good chance to have projects funded there. We are thrilled that a lot of our projects serve seniors, they serve families, they serve people with disabilities. We recently had a round that wasn't tax credits, but it was particularly for small apartment buildings, less than 25 units, that were only for people with disabilities. And we were thrilled that we were able to put $31 million towards that effort for the second year in a row, and that also helps Illinois subject to consent decree issues. So we really try to have a good look at the needs, and we try to make sure that we're funding those housing, multifamily housing that meets those needs. On the other side of this, we also have a home buyer program. And in that home buyer program, we have banks all over the state, around 180 that originate loans for us. We provide down payment assistance. We buy back the loans from the banks, and then we are able to sell them as tax-exempt bonds and mortgage-backed securities. In the result, we have about 6,000 first-time home buyers in Illinois. And what is really interesting about that is 1 out of every 10 first-time homebuyers used an Ida product last year. So 1 out of 10, regardless of their income, whether they're low income or not. Now, we're all about serving low income folks. And when you think of the whole market, that's pretty amazing. And we think that's a great way to keep people living and staying and keeping talent in Illinois. I want to mention one thing, since I'm sitting here with Rich from the Housing Authority of Cook County, how we're different than other housing authorities across the state. We work with these other housing authorities, but our name makes it seem like we're more similar to what we are. We don't have vouchers. You know, we do not get funding directly from HUD for the type of programs that they do. We do not own housing. We do not own public housing. However, we lend to folks like Rich and other housing authorities. We oftentimes are working with them hard on technical assistance to get deals done. We might give, Rich, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but we just did a deal with Cook County Housing Authority where he's able to do a lot of rehab now. So although our names look very, very similar, we have very, very different roles. Another kind of third prong of what IDA looks at is programs that are inside the communities, and this is kind of leading to what Bridget was talking about. So we have a single-family rehab program. So this is for low-income owners of homes that may need a new roof, that may need new siding, those type of issues. We also have another that is home accessibility. So we could add the ramp, we could add the grab bars and the shower, things to keep people in their homes, to keep them from having to go into an institution too early. We also have a blight program. We fund the Land Bank and many, many other nonprofits and municipalities around the state, helping them take down these blighted, vacant, single-family homes that Bridget was referring to that we know decrease property values in neighborhoods. We've seen studies that show for every dollar that we put in to demolish a home, the neighbor's home rises 14. So we put in $1 to demo, the neighbor's house increases 14. So we feel like that's a really good use of funds. The other side of this is actually getting access to those funds, and that's what access to the properties, and that's what Bridget was talking about. So we are part of a community revitalization task force. We've got those partners in the room. We are excited that we can bring you something to take a look at and open it up to the rest of the affordable housing community and really think through this, because this is tough problems. And we have states, particularly Michigan and Ohio, that are doing great. They're doing great in this blight game, and we're not. And we have a system, it's just too slow, and it's just got these administrative burdens. So I think we've got the right people in the room to be able to offer some solutions to speed that process up. We also have a program that creates land banks. We have folks from all over the state that are working right now. Peoria's one, Springfield's one. Danville has a land bank, but they didn't have feasibility studies. So we're funding those type of projects too to help people do exactly what they're doing in Cook County to assemble those properties to ready for redevelopment. I know I've thrown a lot at you. That's the big summary.
Good. So it sounds like you all are very active and working on a number of projects, but how are you marketing your program? How are you making people aware of who you are, what you do, and how they can access your services?
Sure. IDA has traditionally did a pretty good job reaching out to federal and state local officials. We have staff that is their entire job. I'm in Springfield, but I know that there's particular things going on in districts. I try to get there and actually talk to elected officials. But we found, more importantly, is having people talk to mayors and aldermen. We have a staff of just a couple people that have seen over 100 mayors and managers in the last 10 months. And we can tell that that's making a difference. I think that oftentimes mayors know that Audra's lost a job, or my husband passed away, or something like that happens that impacts my income, and they're able to send people to IDA. Since we started that outreach program, we can tell that people coming in for foreclosure prevention and payment assistance, 30% of those people are checking a box saying, I heard about this from my elected official. At these visits with elected officials, we're giving them Facebook feeds, we're giving them paragraphs that they can pop right into the newsletters, we give them Twitter words to put out. So I think we're doing a better job actually getting to people. We also have a staff that works very hard going to homebuyer fairs. So if either one of you had an event in your district, we have staff that's happy to go out, they're bilingual. We want to get our word out. We want people to know about our program.